say a ma'aseh with the Alter Rebbe, they wouldn't call Adineinu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu originally. They would pull him up to the Torah with his name. There's one time the Chassidim called him up, Yamoid, Adineinu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu, and they saw the Alter Rebbe's face shone. So they thought maybe the Alter Rebbe wants to get the covered. So the next time they called him up, Yamoid, Adineinu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu. Later they heard Alter Rebbe walking back and forth in his room. He's saying, Einmal Adineinu Mereinu Rabbeinu, Vidramal Adineinu Mereinu Rabbeinu. The Alter Rebbe said, one time Adineinu Mereinu Rabbeinu, another time Adineinu Mereinu Rabbeinu. I would have had a pit, I would have went in and covered and hid myself. So then realized that he wasn't very happy about it, but he didn't understand why did his face shine when they called him Adineinu Mereinu Rabbeinu. So they asked Alter Rebbe, so Alter Rebbe says, Alter Rebbe answered, because you have to be Makabel Yisurim Ba'ava, you have to accept Yisurim, afflictions out of love. Anyway, so we're coming from Beis Ir. Beis Ir was the Chatchila Ribber, it's the birthday of the Rebbe Marash, and the Rebbe Marash's motto was that you don't deal with the problems of life, you just jump over them. Don't try to sit down and deliberate and call up the whole world, every single scientist and diplomat in the world. Just the Chatchila Ribber. Go and the person's attitude usually is that if worse comes to worse, then he'll decide just to fight on and go weiter. Then he'll decide to jump over it. Rabbi Marash says the Chatchila Ribber. The Chatchila should right away go over, which means in Avodas Hashem, there's a lot of times we get stuck in the mud, and there are challenges and certain things that try to schlep us down. And Rabbi Marash taught us that the approach, we have the koyach to use the approach, and sometimes the things that might schlep us down the most isn't necessarily things that are happening in the world around us, but things that are happening within our own Dal Damas. Rabbi once spoke a sicha. This was during the time that Russia was invading Afghanistan. Tav Shemel was actually this time of the year, Pesach Sheni, like Boimer. Tav Shemel. Around this time, and the Rebbe said, the Gemara says, having negative influence in a person's household, that his children aren't growing up the right way, is worse than the war of Gog and Magog. The war of Gog and Magog is prophesied as a worldwide war, a very, bombastic event, and is something which should seem to be the top on a person's priority, what he should be worried about. The Gemara says, no, it goes on Gog and Magog, they will take care of. What should be more important to you is what's going on in your own house, the chinuch of your kids, how your family is behaving, with what type of aura you create, environment you create in your own house. That's negayat you, that's relevant to you. Worldwide events are beyond your capability to deal with. So when it comes to a person's own daladamas, certain things that affect him, it's much harder for him to ignore. And nevertheless, Rebbe Marash says that l'chatchila Rebbe, don't get schlepped down, don't get bogged down. You should jump over it. You should have emunah, you should have simcha, you should have bitachon. You should go above and beyond. And the truth is, b'zman hazeh, the only way to overcome the nisyonos of the world, if a person will start making a cheshbon, what he did today, what he did tomorrow, what he did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, today's day and age, if a person will start making cheshbonos, the bottom line will be very depressing and very unmotivating for him to make any further steps in Avodas Hashem. So the only way to be successful in today's day and age, we're holding by the footsteps of Yemesa Mashiach, is in the way of simcha. Rebbe spoke about this. Avodas Hashem is simcha. Just be b'simcha. Don't let the things bog you down. Don't take things to heart. And your personal Avodas Hashem isn't exactly the way it's supposed to be. Just move on. Chassidim said that what happens if you're walking and they fly, to make a little bit of a graphic point, but a bird, flies over you, and sometimes birds are a little bit indiscriminating, and they might drop something on you. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and you're going to bemoan for an hour and a half, why did the bird do this to me? Chassidim said, Bewischt up and geht weiter. You wipe off the dirt and you go further. You understand? It happens. Person falls and then he gets a stain on his garment. He's going to sit and curse the whole day. You go further. So that's the Nakuda. So going further, the Chatchal Rib is even more than that. You go above and beyond. That's one Nakuda. It's coming from Beizir. We're also coming now in the month of Iyar, particularly is associated with Abbas Yisrael. The idea that the students of Rabbi Kiva did not give honor one to another. And the idea of not giving honor one to another, there's many levels. You know, it could be that there's pashut fights. Then there could be not giving honor one to another could mean very subtle things. And this ties in with this week's parsha. Where do we have Tazria Metzorah speaks about lashon hara, saying gossip. The Rebbe explains in the Sikha that when we're talking about gossip, that in Metzorah, we know it says a person spoke gossip, he got tzaras, versus house would get tzaras in his garments, and he would get tzaras. Once he got tzaras, he's put in quarantine, and he has to be, quarantined by himself. He can't even be together with other people that have tzaras. So when someone had tzaras, when someone spoke lashon hara, he got tzaras, it doesn't necessarily mean that he spoke evil talk, that he was out to get someone, he was out to speak maliciously about someone and dig into someone's negative side. No. The lashon hara we're talking about means that a person, it's carefree speech. Just sit and talk about this, about that. Once you talk about this and that, they say that there's three types of people. Some people speak about ideas. There's other people that speaks about things, and other people speak about people. Three levels of. So when you let your speech roam freely, eventually you start talking about people. Once you start talking about people, you start talking about. You start getting involved in negative things about other people, even if it's not negative, but you're mixing other people's business, which is not our business. And then you'll start talking about righteous people and about tzaddikim and about teachers and respectable people of the community and start bad-mouthing them until eventually you bad-mouth Eibishter himself, Rahman al-Tzan. You bad-mouth Torah mitzvahs. Why? How does it all start? It all starts from being carefree. The Mittel Rebbe, if those that know, there's a Sefer Derech Chaim, one of the severest Musar Sefer in Chassidus. Derech Chaim, Grace Chassidim would cry just by looking at the cover of Derech Chaim. One of the ideas he discusses, one of the prime ideas is he discusses that the worst sin is not doing anything wrong, but it's feeling carefree. Just allowing yourself to have ein meitzur l'ruchah. There's nothing, you have no limitations, nothing stopping you. You don't feel any kabbalah sel malchus, you don't feel any authority, any sense of submission to a higher power. Just talk. Speak, just opening your mouth and just talking carefree about anything and everything, that itself could bring out the worst things within a person. Why? Because there's the Rahanelam. What Chassidus speaks about is hidden within a person. There could be potential for evil that he himself might not be aware. Right? The same way there's the hidden potential for good in everyone to a certain extent. Even someone that might be righteous, there's a hidden potential for evil that he might not be aware of. And the way that comes out when a person is carefree and he just speaks and thinks whatever he wants, eventually that brings out within him that he now becomes a skupa hanidreses, now becomes open to anything and everything. There's no klipos can't have access to someone that has, that he uses the expression that someone has complete kabbalah, soil malchus shayim, is completely given over to the Eibishter, as the klipos run away from him. They're not going to start bombarding him with machshavas zaras. But someone that's open, like in a pustka krich, someone that's carefree, this is the place, there's an open entrance, that's where they all park. So the idea is, Tazria Metzorah, one of the important things when it comes to Avodas Hashem v'chal, but particularly in Abbas Yisrael, things that are very small, minor things that we don't even give much attention to, but they're really very, very important to try to limit and try to control and to try to avoid. Discipline of yourself. Is don't talk about other people. Talking about other people doesn't only mean that you speak negatively about them, but also at the end of the day is when you talk about other people, you lose a certain respect for humanity in general. And by losing your respect of humanity in general, you end up losing your respect for yourself. somebody that he could put down someone else. What it basically means is that in his eyes, human beings turn into animals. What was so Moisir Adam and Abehemah? So why does he have to act any better? There's a certain sense of purpose, of attitude, of how people are and should be, and what is really going on in life. When you talk about it, that's what you turn into. So this is the idea of Tazria Metzorah. How did the tzara start? The guy didn't do any major sin. We're not talking here about a murderer or someone that he did a Ponzi scheme. No, we're talking about someone that was just talking carefree about anything and everything. And the Torah is trying to explain to us that is a dangerous thing. That is something we should try to limit, to control. We should. What's the lashon there? The Torah is the healing for marpi lashon, for talk. A person that has evil talk should speak words of Torah. A person should, control himself. Now, there's obviously, they say that if a person, gives up something, he has to fill it with something else. If a person is gonna, it's a very big, very, very, very delicious topic to speak and talk about other people. So find something else of interest that you could talk about, whether it's Torah, whether it's whatever it is. But like a Metzorah, he found another outlet, a healthy one, a holy one. But then that is the Nekuda. That's also why who heals the Metzorah is a Kohen. A Kohen is an Isha Chesed. Kohen is a man of kindness. He teaches him to have Avos Yisrael and Achas Yisrael. Tazria Metzorah is also one of the themes that the Rebbe speaks of in a number of sichos, is the idea of understanding our role in bringing Mashiach. Tazria Metzorah, the Rebbe discusses at length. I don't want to get into it, all know the whole background of the points. But Tazria Metzorah, in Tazria you have the impurity, right? Pashas Tazria speaks about the tzaras itself. Metzorah speaks about the purity, how the person gets over the tzaras. And this many years they come together. And basically, a person has tzara symbolizes a state of exile. The purification of tzara symbolizes the geula. And this is also hinted with the word tazria. Tazria means you sow. Right? The whole parsha of tzara starts with tazria. Tazria means that the woman will have seed, she'll have a child. But tazria means to sow. When you sow something, you putting it into the ground. It takes time to grow. When is it going to grow? It'll take time until it comes out. So Parshas Metzorah is when you have the outcome of the sowing. So in a person's avodah, there's two stages: is when he's working hard, putting all his investment in. The Metzorah is when he reaps the benefit of his hard work, when he sees the Geula Mitzvah Shlema, the future redemption, which then will see the effects of all our suffering and all what we accomplish in exile. Now, a person could think, I'm holding now by Parshas Tazria. I'm still dealing with Galus. All I see is Galus. All I know is Galus. I know in the future Mashiach will come. I'm a Jew. I'm not a Kaifer. I believe in Bias Mashiach. But does it have to do anything with me today? Not necessarily. Even if it has something to do with me today, it's like you're doing something today, you're investing because you'll get a return in a year from now, you get a return in a few months from now, tens of years from now. But it's not something that it's not something that I'm living with currently. So the Rebbe says, Tazria Metzorah comes usually together, which means that in our avodah of Galus, we have to feel and see how it leads to Mashiach. It gives us a completely different chayas when we're doing Torah mitzvahs in a way that we don't look at it, I'm doing a mitzvah to bring Mashiach, or I'm doing a mitzvah that I'm already experiencing the effect of the future achievement in what I'm doing right now. So the Rebbe explained that it's important for us, in order that we should have the koyach, to persevere within the last moments, whatever you want to call it, within whatever we're going through at this point, however you want to categorize it, in order for us to actually bring about the revelation of Mashiach. The Rebbe spoke the last time we heard of Zirkind here for bringing Tazria Metzorah about learning on the Gul Mashiach, was in order for us to really see and feel that koyach of Gula within our time of Galus, we need to learn about Mashiach. There's no shortcuts really. And it's not enough somebody to say could only learn a bite-sized piece about Mashiach, fine. Somebody that's able to dig in depth, it's very impossible to learn, to live with Mashiach by just hearing a nice word, to bite, something that your person has to learn about digest. Person will have many, many questions, no question about that. Person has to sit and learn and think and internalize, constantly work on it, and then you'll be able to start seeing the...
Could you give Rabbi Shaila a plug?
I give Rabbi Shaila a plug.
Yeah. But Rabbi used to go to his mikveh, right?
Yeah, I also used to go to the mikveh of the Karastira mikveh. Rabbi Shaila Karastira was a yid that was known for Avos Yisrael. Talking about Avos Yisrael. What would he do? He was a big machna seirach. He used to give a lot of food to people. There's a famous word that at Rosh Hashanah before Tkiyas and many other Hasidic courts, the Rebbe was going to the mikveh. He was busy doing, Now the Rebbe, by the way, just say a story I heard. The Rebbe, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, not the second, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, those that are a little bit familiar with the history of the Bima in 770, know that the Bima of 770, when they read the Torah, at some point they put in a ledger, whatever you call it, a ledge, you could pick it up and down. Because at some point the Rebbe found it hard to read the Haftarah, so they had a ledge you could pick up the Bima, so the Rebbe could read the Haftarah. But then by Tkiyas, people squishing and packing and trying to see. So by Tkiyas they put it down. So usually the one that picked it up and down, he told me whenever he used to pick it up and down, the Rebbe would instinctively move away his hand. The Rebbe was leaning on the bima. So the first day Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe did not move away his hand. So the Rebbe, he felt that the Rebbe had no feeling of what was going around. It was in a different world. So the second day Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe took away, but not the first day. Anyway, so going back to Rabbi Shaila of Karastir, so other tzaddikim were busy with, but what was he busy with? He was busy cutting up mezainas, cutting up food for people to eat after davening. So somebody asked him, he said, I don't understand. He says, other Rebbeim, he said, you have to understand a little bit of Yiddish and play of words over here. He said, other Rebbeim are dealing now with Ruzin de Ruzin, the secrets of the Torah. The deepest secrets and the Kabbalistic Yichudim and Kavonas, Kabbalistic meditations for blowing the shofar, and you're busy with preparing food for... So he says, my intention is, played a word based on the tefillah that we say in Tal Geshem. He says, La Seiva v'lei l'ruzin. Seiva v'lei l'ruzin literally means La Seiva for satisfaction and not for Rozin. Rozin means... somebody that's skinny, poverty. So he says, it was a play of words, Rozin, and Rozin. My intention is the Jew should have people what to eat. That was his Kabbalistic meditation. So he was very into, he was huge machna seirach. That was his chayis, and giving people to eat and helping people. And if that plugs into anything, maybe it does. The ikir is...
Like Moshe Rashi? Like Moshe Rashi?
Yeah.
Moshe Frank. Let's not get carried away.
So, but he was known as a big Poel Yeshuas, a major miracle worker. And the ikir is that Schusa Yogin Aleinu, we should have the coming of Mashiach. We should increase in Avos Yisrael. We should learn about Mashiach. We should live with Mashiach. Mashiach should live with us. We should live with him. And we should have the coming of Mashiach take us from Yad Nam.